Hello lovely people! Since it is the beginning of the month, it is time for me to talk to you about the books and movies that I experienced in the month of January. First, let's talk about the books that I read in the month of January. The first book I read in the month of January was I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This novel was a delight. It was in the format of a diary from the perspective of a 17-year-old girl named Cassandra. It is separated into different sections based on the notebooks or journals that she used to write in. Primarily, this novel covers the daily life of Cassandra and her dilapidated castle home that she loves, and the family within. This novel also has some blossoming romances involving her and her older sister. My absolute favorite part of this book was Cassandra's voice. When I would set the book down, I'd find myself thinking about and missing Cassandra. Through her voice, I came to love and admire the family and the other people in her life just as much as she did. One of the other characters in the novel described Cassandra as consciously naive, which I think is a perfect way to describe this character that I loved so much. Due to the great writing and voice of I Capture the Castle, I gave it 5 stars out of 5. The next book I read in the month of January was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This was my first Agatha Christie read, and it definitely lived up to the hype. It is a classic murder mystery. The setting and characters are kind of stereotypical for this genre, but that was not a negative for me. It was entertaining and had me feeling anxious while reading it. I just desperately wanted to figure out who had done it. This novel was a perfect example of what a murder mystery novel should be. I can see the definite influence Agatha Christie has had on modern murder mystery novelists. That being said, I easily gave And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie 5 stars. The next book I read in the month of January was Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. This is the second book I'd ever read by Kate DiCamillo, and she definitely did not disappoint. She has a knack for writing heartwarming children's novels with important and clear messages for young people. I did a review for this book and its movie adaptation, which I will link below, so I won't say much more aside from the fact that I gave Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo 5 stars. The next book I read in the month of January was my ebook read, and it was The Diviners by Libba Bray. First off, I want to say I'm not a big fan of the trend every book has to become a series, so I was disappointed to find out that this book is the first in a series. Aside from that, the setting of this book was set up really well by Libba Bray. I loved the concept and the plot of this story. The main plot of the story is a murder mystery. I also really loved the characters for the most part. A big downfall for this novel for me was the lack of character development in the main character. She experienced a wide range of abnormal things in this novel, which I would expect to change anyone, but at the end of the novel she seemed the same, which was highly disappointing because I really found her character very interesting aside from that. But this book also gave me the anxious and uneasy feelings of wanting to know what was going on, similar to the feelings that I got when I was reading And Then There Were None, so I gave The Diviners by Libba Bray 4 stars out of 5. I strayed off of my TBR for the last book I read in the month of January, and it was Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion. My main reason for picking up this book was all of the positive reviews I was seeing for it on YouTube, especially my favorite, Amy in the Box's review, which I will link in the description below. I think most of you know the premise of this novel, so I won't say too much, but if you would like to know more, don't forget to visit Amy in the Blue Box's video. I found the writing and the plot of this story to be really entertaining. I had a few issues with some of the writing decisions in this novel, but overall it was still a very enjoyable read. This was another one that I didn't realize was the first in a series until I picked it up, which is a turn-off. I don't know that I will ever pick up the sequel to Warm Bodies, but I really enjoyed it as a standalone novel. So I gave Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion 4 stars out of 5. On to the movies I watched in the month of January. The first movie I watched was Looper, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis. I absolutely loved this movie. I'm not usually one to be into action flicks, but this one was a definite exception. The acting and visual style of this film was phenomenal, and it contained time travel, which is always a plus for me. So if you can't tell, I gave Looper 5 stars out of 5. The second movie I watched in January was Because of Winn-Dixie, which I briefly mentioned in my review, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched was Alice in Wonderland, the Disney animated version. I don't think that I had ever watched it in its entirety before, and it was ridiculous and silly, just like I remember the novel to be. I feel like the movie format gave a lot of structure to a story that usually doesn't have any, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next movie I watched was Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. It was sweet and beautiful, and the message was clear and delightful, so I gave The Lorax 5 stars out of 5. The next film I watched was the stop-motion film Paranorman. I absolutely fell in love with this movie and the style of stop-motion. The story and the characters were all lovely, and I watched all of the bonus features about the making of the movie. I was so impressed by the level of work that goes into making a stop-action film. I easily gave Paranorman 5 stars out of 5. The next movie I watched was Premium Rush, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I really wanted to love this movie, mostly because of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but it really fell short for me. It felt like an opportunity to show off some really great bike moves and special effects, so I had to give Premium Rush 3 stars. The next movie I saw in the cinema with my family, and it was Les Miserables. I really don't need to gush anymore about this movie because so many people online have done so. The acting, the music, and the visual style was great, so I gave it 5 stars out of 5. The last movie I watched this month was The Raven, starring John Cusack. This movie was a little harder to rate for me. On the surface, the writing and the plot's conclusion were meh, but I came away from it feeling really entertained and satisfied, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Those are all of the books and movies I experienced in the month of January. My favorite book of the month was I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith. And my favorite movie of the month was a little harder to choose, but it was Looper, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis. What were some of the best book and movie experiences for you in the month of January? I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the books or movies I mentioned today in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.